Hello, I'm Riley Cohen and welcome to Northwest Newsweek. A big rally was held in Thunder Bay on Friday to protest the planned underground repository to store Canada's nuclear waste. Protesters want the location to be reconsidered, citing fears of water contamination around the region. Roughly 200 people from Thunder Bay and surrounding communities made their way to Waverley Park to demand a stop to the nuclear waste management project near Ignace. The event was organized by community members from Grassy Narrows and Fort William First Nations, and they were joined by other organizations like We the Nuclear Free North. One of the organizers, Chrissy Isaac, says the hopes the government hears what they have to say and stops the plan to store Canada's nuclear waste in northwestern Ontario.
I'm hoping, that it's reconsidered, that there's got to be other ways, safer ways, and especially, storing stuff near bodies of water, they really need to start thinking about how and where they're placing, something so toxic.
We are killing Mother Earth, so we have to fight for her now. I feel she fought for us before. Now we got to fight for her. And we got to fight for the people that are getting affected too by the poisoning they're putting on the ground.
Following the rally, protesters marched down Red River Road to the Marina Spirit Garden, where the protest continued with more speeches against the project. Indigenous Affairs and First Nations Reconciliation Minister Greg Rickford is responding to the backlash against himself and the province over the controversial Bill 5. Among those against the bill are Indigenous groups and other leaders calling for his resignation. Justin Hardy reports.
Opponents of Bill 5 have been calling for the immediate resignation of Minister Greg Rickford. Among their ranks are First Nations communities like Bearskin Lake, the Ontario Federation of Labour, and opposition leader Mart Stiles. Rickford responded to those calls during a media event in Ignace on Thursday.
I'm not going anywhere. I love working with First Nations leadership. I love helping to build bridges between First Nations communities and municipalities. I think you'll see, I think what you've seen is First Nations leadership come out and be very supportive of the work our government's doing, very supportive of the work that I'm doing. So I've had the tremendous opportunity as a nurse, as a lawyer, and now as a federal and provincial politician, working almost exclusively with First Nations.
While not yet joining the call for Rickford's resignation, Nedamizagame Nishnabeg Unsurrendered Nation has joined efforts to demand the repeal of Bill 5. Chief Louis Kwissawa and his members have been protesting along Highway 17 all this week. He says his community is not against development in the region. They're fighting to keep their right to be a part of the conversation.
We want to be at the discussion table, and Bill 5 excludes us from that. It overreaches our inherent rights. It overreaches our rights as Indigenous people to be duly consulted within the framework of the Canadian Constitution when you look at Section 35.
Rickford says the Ontario government takes its duty to consult very seriously and that the next several months will be dedicated to listening to First Nations concerns.
Bill 5 is a law. It is not the law, and to the extent that there's been any implementation so far. And so this is our window for engagement and consultation. And as it stands now, obviously you mentioned that there have been some vocal opposition. We have quietly met with different groups across the province, First Nations and municipalities, who have quite a bit of interest in what this bill could do for their community and for their region.
Justin Hardy, TBT News.
Ontario Provincial Police have announced criminal charges in connection with a fatal crash that occurred on Highway 1117 just east of Thunder Bay back in December of 2023. The collision occurred near Mirror Lake in Shunia, involving two passenger vehicles and a transport truck. One person died in the crash. 63-year-old Monique Picard of Long Lac lost her life just 2 days before her 25th wedding anniversary. OPP announced this week they've now arrested 36-year-old Chelsea Killar of Red Rock on an outstanding warrant for multiple charges, including dangerous driving causing death and operating a vehicle while impaired by alcohol or drugs. The accused is being held in custody pending a court appearance on Monday. An American motorist is dead following a highway crash involving a moose near Rossport early Friday morning. OPP say a Tesla vehicle collided with the animal just after midnight. The driver was pronounced dead at the scene, and the passenger was airlifted to Thunder Bay Regional Hospital with serious injuries. Highway 17 between Nipigon and Schreiber was closed for around 6 hours and reopened to traffic at around 7 o'clock Friday morning. The province's Special Investigations Unit has cleared 2 Canora OPP officers involved in the fatal shooting of a suspect last June. 57-year-old Bruce Frog had set a public building on fire and was threatening police and firefighters with 2 large meat cleavers when he was shot. The SIU director says despite the tragic turn of events, there's no basis for proceeding with criminal charges in this case. Jonathan Wilson has more.
According to the SIU's final report, in the early afternoon of June 25th last year, OPP officers were at Anishinaabe Park in Canora when a man, subsequently identified as Bruce Frog, doused himself with gasoline. He then picked up 2 large knives and set fire to a food concession. Frog was standing close to the fire when officers asked him to move away so that it could be extinguished. The sergeant told firefighters to have a hose ready to douse the man if he caught on fire. But Frog then stepped towards the firefighters while brandishing the knives, and another OPP officer discharged his rifle 3 times, striking Frog in the chest and abdomen. He was pronounced dead in hospital 3 hours later. The SIU report contains photos of the 2 meat cleavers Frog was holding, along with the police rifle he was shot with. The agency obtained multiple video recordings of the incident, including a camera inside an OPP cruiser, where the officer who fired the rifle is heard saying, "I don't know if that was the right call." However, the SIU director exonerated both officers. James Martino says he's satisfied the officer's use of gunfire constituted reasonable force, as Frog was armed with 2 large knives as he stepped in the direction of officers and firefighters. And Martino says there was no reason to believe that Frog was not on the precipice of a knife attack on the first responders. As a result, the SIU found no reasonable grounds to believe an OPP officer committed a criminal offense. Anishinaabe Nation has issued a statement rejecting the SIU report, clearing the police involved. NAN says they do not accept this explanation of the circumstances that led to Bruce Frog's death. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
2 teenage brothers and their family dog narrowly escaped a devastating fire that tore through their home in White Sand First Nation near Armstrong. It happened on Wednesday afternoon. The fires left the Nodden family of 2 parents and 7 children without a home. The brothers, aged 14 and 17, were the only ones home at the time of the fire. The mother was in Thunder Bay with the other children for appointments. By the time the volunteer fire crews arrived, the home was already beyond saving. The cause of the blaze is currently unknown, but OPP have confirmed it is not suspicious in nature. A serious collision involving a group of tree planters near Sioux Lookout has left at least 1 person with life-altering injuries and 24 more wounded. Ontario Provincial Police were called to a bus rollover on Highway 516 near Stain Lake at around 6:45 last night. The single vehicle collision involved over 30 adult passengers, most of them tree planters. 25 people were transported to area hospitals for medical treatment. The investigation into the cause of the crash is still ongoing. And coming up after the break, the president of NOMA is calling on the Prime Minister and the Premier to do more to remove the softwood lumber duties from the U.S.
The dialogue's been there. We just got to continue to make sure that we're lobbying on behalf of our communities we represent.
Welcome back. The Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association says the big hike in softwood lumber duties will seriously threaten the region's forest sector. The U.S. proposed a duty rate of 34.4% earlier this year, and it's about to be put in place sometime in July. Justin Hardy spoke with NOMA President Rick Dumas and has this report.
This is really could be a huge impact to specifically Northwestern and Northern Ontario, but for that matter, all of Canada.
NOMA is calling on provincial and federal leaders to make the lumber dispute a top trade priority. This letter, sent to Prime Minister Mark Carney and Premier Doug Ford, calls on them to work with stakeholders on mitigation measures and publicly acknowledge the urgency of the issue. It all comes as softwood lumber duties are about to rise from 14.5% to a whopping 34.4%. There's also the potential for additional U.S. tariffs on all forest products, pending the outcome of a Section 232 national security review this fall. NOMA President Rick Dumas says area municipalities need to know the upper levels of government are standing with them.
We need the federal and provincial governments of all stripes throughout the country to come together and say, listen, we're here to protect the oil, the forestry, the steel, the aluminum, all the industries that represent the huge economic impact and the economy to all our communities. We need to protect. So yes, the dialogue's been there. We just got to continue to make sure that we're lobbying on behalf of our communities we represent and bring the voice of the North, from my position as Northwest, to make sure that the government understands clearly that this will have devastating impacts if we continue to see these tariffs applied to the softwood lumber industry.
NOMA says that since the 2016 expiry of the last softwood lumber agreement, the industry has faced $10 billion in cumulated duty costs, directly undermining the viability of the sector and threatening thousands of jobs throughout the region. Dumas says this issue needs to be tackled together by a united front.
We're always open for discussions with my MP, Minister Haiju, as well as our MPPs provincially, Les Vigeois, and of course Kevin Holland on Thunder Bay Superior, Thunder Bay Atikokan and Thunder Bay Superior North. These are voices that we have at the table, and we can definitely have their support and going forward. They understand the impacts it does in their ridings as well. So let's all work together, regardless of the colors of our political parties.
Justin Hardy, TBT News.
The province is digging into the future of mining and it's investing $10 million to launch its 2025 Ontario Junior Exploration Program. Minister of Energy and Mines Stephen Lecce was in Thunder Bay area to make an announcement alongside local MPP Kevin Holland. Jessica Clement reports.
Stephen Lecce made a stop just outside the city with Thunder Bay Atikokan MPP Kevin Holland to make an announcement to support early-stage mineral exploration.
We are unveiling the next intake of the Ontario Junior Exploration Program. It is now open. An additional $10 million this year alone through our most recent budget is going to bring the total commitment for this program to $45 million.
The funds will help junior mining companies and licensed prospectors get projects off the ground, with the hopes they'll turn into major operations that power Ontario's economy. The program will also increase the available funding allotment for Indigenous participation from $10,000 to $15,000.
That means up to $215,000 for companies, up to $65,000 for prospectors when they meaningfully contribute and collaborate with Indigenous communities.
Holland says this is a great opportunity for prospectors and junior mining companies across the region.
By supporting prospectors and junior mining companies, especially in overcoming the hurdles of remote exploration, we're doing more than investing in our economy. We are unlocking the long-term potential of our mining sector, and that means jobs for northern and rural communities, growth for our economy, and lasting prosperity for the people of Ontario.
I want to thank the Minister for the opportunity to fund junior exploration and more the prospector, who is the sort of the base of the whole chain from prospector to mine.
Applications are now being accepted and will close on July 31st. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
M&R firefighters continue to battle a high number of new forest fires, mainly in the Red Lake District. Around 50 new fires have popped up across the Northwest in the past 5 days, including 17 blazes reported on Wednesday. M&R Fire Information Officer Chris Marchand says many of them were likely started by lightning, but were small and fairly easy to get under control.
17 new fires is definitely busy, but not particularly unanticipated for this point in the season where lightning really starts to become the main source of new fires for us. And the Northwest region has seen thousands of lightning strikes over the past 5 days. So in these circumstances, initial attack firefighting becomes the priority. That is to find these fires small and to keep them from impacting people and property and infrastructure.
Meanwhile, the largest forest fire, Red Lake 12, is still not under control. The 195,000-hectare blaze prompted the evacuation of around 2,000 people from Sandy Lake First Nation in early June. Many of them were flown to Thunder Bay and then caught commercial flights to other cities. Sandy Lake leadership announced the evacuees would start being flown home on Friday, but with that many people spread across 7 locations, it could take 2 weeks to coordinate the full return. Marchand says their fire crews focused a lot of effort on keeping Sandy Lake protected.
And community leadership is comfortable with the progress that has been made on protecting their communities and have that made that decision to allow their residents to return home. Many areas on the wildland fire Red Lake 12, including the western perimeter, remain active at this time. Fires of this size require a considerable amount of resources and favorable weather conditions, such as heavy rainfall and cooler temperatures, to be able to see that change in their control status. So this is more of a reflection of where it is on the timeline towards being fully extinguished.
The municipality of Greenstone has voted in favor of changing the policy around the sale of municipal land, ditching a requirement that development must occur on the property within 2 years of the sale. As Haley Perot tells us, not all councillors are on board with the change.
During Greenstone's service delivery review period, Council directed staff to revise the rules around the sale of surplus land after a number of residents expressed interest in purchasing property adjacent to their own. Council's position had previously been to only approve sales where development would occur within 2 years, but the new policy removes that requirement. Nakina Ward Councillor Matthew Donovan isn't a fan.
We're giving away any opportunity to collect a real amount of taxes, and we're giving away any opportunity to collect water and sewer on these lots. I understand the lots in Geraldton can be very small, and we put 2 together. I do understand that, but these are full-size buildable lots that cost a significant amount of money to do, to operate, to keep up.
But Geraldton Ward's Chris Walterson disagrees. He says similar sales in the past have still brought in a lot in taxes.
10 years ago, we sold multiple lots to a couple of people in town. And I just went on the Impact website, and their houses are assessed at $425,000. So I think we get significant amount of taxes from them as opposed to just an empty lot.
Greenstone CAO Mark Wright is also defending the change, saying the municipality doesn't actually have a way to force development within 2 years anyway.
We really actually have no feasible, for some of the smaller sales, way of ensuring that someone actually does build within the time frame that's been stated, other than, I guess, moral suasion to say, hey, you promised to do this. So that's, I guess, part of why the proposal that's in front of council, because if we're not ultimately can't enforce it, why give the idea that we can?
In the end, council voted in favor of the policy change as presented. Administration will bring the final bylaw back to council on July 14th for implementation. Haley Perot, TBT News.
After the break, a Fort Francis woman wins the Dryden 50-50 draw for June.
You won $109,757.50.
Welcome back. A woman from Fort Francis is the latest winner of the Dryden 50/50 draw. Organizers of the monthly fundraiser for the Dryden Regional Health Services Foundation drew the grand prize ticket on June 27th. Pamela Rodriguez got the exciting phone call from the foundation co-chair, Brad Coles.
Well, we have our grand prize draw on Fridays at 10 o'clock, and I'm calling to let you know you are the grand prize winner this week. So congratulations.
I am?
You are. Do you want to know how much you won?
Yeah.
You won $109,757.50.
Seriously? Like, oh wow. Oh my God.
We appreciate your support, and we actually do have a real check for you. So we'll do that. So yes, congratulations.
Any immediate plans for the money?
A few little plans.
Anything you can share with us?
Take care of some grandchildren, give them some money and our kids some money.
If you need to adopt some grandchildren, Brad and I are available.
So,
congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you very much. I'm glad it goes to a good cause.
The Northwest Region OPP have been celebrating Pride over the past month. The police service recently produced a video highlighting one of their officers at the Canora detachment, Constable Haley McCleary.
I've been to a few Pride events as a police officer, and I think that having the visibility of, yes, I'm a police officer, but also like showing support and being a part of the LGBTQ plus community, it's inviting, it's inclusive, it's something that is important to me, and I'm glad to be part of the OPP and that it supports that. I'm Provincial Constable Haley McCleary. I work up in the Northwest region, and I am a member of the LGBTQ community. I've been with the OPP as a constable since 2019. I was posted to Canora. I didn't know where Canora was, so it was a roll of the dice to come up here. I've been here for almost 6 years. I was from the GTA, and then coming up to small town in northwestern Ontario was a huge change for me. I was very surprised to find the size of the LGBTQ community within Canora when I got up here. It was very easy to meet lots of people and make lots of friends who have all of the same interests and who are also part of the LGBTQ community. So coming from a huge city where Pride is a big deal, it was really good to see how a small town had embraced the LGBTQ plus community. This year, the Pride banners were available for order earlier in the year, and we are now able to wear them for the entire duration of Pride for the month of June, which I think is a huge step in the right direction. It just kind of shows the month of June is Pride Month, and that's really important to a lot of people, and to be able to show our support for that I think is huge. So big step for the OPP. The OPP itself has a very diverse range of officers when it comes to ethnic background or sexual identity or gender or race or anything that you can think of, and that is what makes up the organization. So supporting the members within the organization truly shows the OPP and its community. All of us are police officers. We are all doing the same job regardless of our background or what community we're a part of or anything like that. At the end of the day, if someone's calling the police for help, they're just looking at you as you, and they would like your assistance at that time, instead of maybe stigmas that would have existed 5, 10 plus years ago. There's lots of people who I've met within the LGBTQ community, within the OPP, and to me, having the support of all of those people have been really huge in my journey as a police officer. And I think that as time goes on, society becomes more and more supportive of the LGBTQ community, and even that sheds a little bit of a positive light, knowing that we're moving forward, we're not moving backwards, there is more support, there's less hatred, there's more acceptance. I'm just happy to be an advocate and be in a position where I can speak openly and for these things. If that means being someone others can look to for support or guidance, then that means a lot to me.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for tuning into this edition of Northwest Newsweek. I'm Riley Cohen, and I'll catch you next time.